The turning point in the Pacific, Tarawa, and the birth of modern amphibious warfare. By late 1943, the Pacific War was changing forever. Japan's explosive expansion had been halted. General Douglas MacArthur's forces had secured Australia's approaches, while earlier naval clashes at Midway and the Coral Sea shattered Japan's ability to dominate the seas. Now, the United States was no longer reacting, it was advancing. The Japanese response was defensive. Across the Pacific, they constructed a vast national defense zone, anchored on island chains like the Gilbert, Marshall, and Caroline Islands. So-called unsinkable aircraft carriers. These islands were meant to bleed any attacker dry, buying time for a decisive counterattack from major bases like Truk and Rebel. But American commanders saw opportunity. Admirals Chester Nimitz and Ernest King understood that these same islands could become stepping stones straight toward Japan. The debate was fierce. MacArthur warned that a Central Pacific offensive would drain resources from his own advance. Still, at the Casablanca Conference, the Allies approved a bold new strategy, a Central Pacific drive under Admiral Raymond Spruance. This strategy would be called island hopping, and it would be brutal. Operation Galvanic, the road to Tarawa. The first test came in November 1943 with Operation Galvanic, targeting the Gilbert Islands. One island stood out above all others, Betio in the Tarawa Atoll, tiny, flat, and barely 3 meters above sea level. Betio was smaller than New York Central Park, yet it was possibly the most heavily fortified island on Earth. Nearly 5,000 elite Japanese defenders, hundreds of bunkers, coastal guns, tanks, and interlocking fields of fire. Its commander, Rear Admiral Keiji Shibazaki, was confident. 1,000,000 men could not take Tarawa in 100 years. He was wrong, but the cost would shock America. D-Day, November 20th, 1943. Before dawn, American battleships unleashed a thunderous bombardment. To the Marines watching offshore, it looked like nothing could survive, but many Japanese bunkers did. When the first assault waves moved in, tracked amphibious vehicles, LVTs, crawled over the coral reef. Then disaster struck. A freak ultra-low tide stranded landing craft hundreds of meters offshore. Thousands of Marines were forced to wade through open water. Under machine gun and mortar fire, men fell everywhere. Radio communications failed. Officers were killed. Units became fragmented. By midday, casualty reports reached Division Command. Casualties 70%. Can't hold. Yet the Marines did hold. Pinned against seawalls, clinging to narrow beachheads, they fought through the night. Only when Sherman tanks finally reached the shore did momentum begin to shift. Crucially, Japanese command collapsed after Shibazaki was killed by naval gunfire, preventing a coordinated counterattack. 3 days that changed the war. Over the next 72 hours, Marines advanced bunker by bunker using flamethrowers, demolitions, tanks. On the third day, Japanese resistance collapsed. The cost was staggering. 1,117 Americans killed, 2,292 wounded, nearly 5,000 Japanese defenders dead. It was one of the bloodiest battles in Marine Corps history, and the first time the American public saw photographs of fallen U.S. soldiers. Critics called Tarawa a disaster. General MacArthur called it an unnecessary massacre. But the U.S. military saw something else. They saw lessons. Learning from blood, Tarawa transformed American amphibious warfare. Mistakes were brutally analyzed, and they were fixed fast. By early 1944, the U.S. Navy and Marines had mass-produced armored LVTs, created underwater demolition teams, improved flamethrowers and tanks, perfected ship-air coordination, extended bombardments to last days instead of hours. The results were immediate. At Kwajalein and Inuitak, Japanese defenses collapsed in days, not weeks. Tarawa had been paid for in blood, but it bought experience that saved countless lives later. As one naval officer later said, "At Tarawa, we were paupers. At Inuitak, we were millionaires." Why Tarawa matters? Tarawa marked the beginning of the final phase of the Pacific War. It shattered illusions about easy victories. It proved that the U.S. could learn, adapt, and overwhelm. But the road to Japan was still long, and far bloodier battles lay ahead. If you want more deep dive, cinematic breakdowns of World War II battles like Tarawa, Saipan, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. This is exactly what we do here on WW2 Nation. Subscribe for real battlefield analysis. No shortcuts, no myths, just where as it really happened.